Hi, third grade. This is Miss Hostetler with our fourth lesson on revising and editing. So far, we have chosen one pandemic journal entry to revise and edit over the next 2 weeks, and we're focusing just on revising this week. So revising is changing the words or sentences in your writing to make your writing better. When we revise, there's 3 things we do. We first reread our writing. And the second thing we do is think about our writing and think about the changes we would like to make to it. And then the last step is to make those changes to improve our writing. The acronym that we are using to remember how to revise and what to revise is ARMS. So each letter of ARMS stands for a different thing that we need to do when we revise. So we've talked about how the A stands for adding, the R stands for removing, the M stands for moving, and finally we're going to talk about this S, which stands for substituting. So let's talk about what type of things you can substitute in your writing when you're revising. So you can substitute the beginning or the ending of your story, and you can also substitute the words. So when I talk about substituting the beginning of the story, you want to ask yourself, does the beginning of the story hook the reader in and want them and encourage them to want to read more? So is the beginning interesting? Does it grab the reader's attention? When you read the ending, do you think that your ending is kind of flat and boring, or does your ending give the reader something to think about even after they've finished reading the story? And then finally, you can substitute words that are boring for words that are more interesting or descriptive. So we're going to go through an example for each of those 3 things you can substitute while revising. So let's talk about the beginning of my story. It says, "The coronavirus has definitely changed my life. Today is a good example of that. I was thinking about what I wanted to eat for breakfast when I realized that I didn't have no more cereal or milk." I know there are spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes in this, but I'm not going to change them right now because that's actually a part of the editing process. So the beginning of this story is a little boring. I definitely think I could change some things to make it more interesting. I think the one thing that I want to really expand on is this last part where I've realized I don't have any more cereal or milk, because that's really the first big event in my story, and the rest of my story is about going to the store and getting those things. So I think I want to describe that situation more, and perhaps I will get my red pen back out and remove those first 2 sentences because I'm not going to keep that in there. So let's change this and make it better. So this is the revised beginning that I have made changes to, and I think it's much more interesting than the red one. So now it says, "I lumbered down the stairs, rubbing the sleep from my eyes as I made my way to the kitchen. Yawning, I opened the refrigerator door. I was surprised to realize that the one thing I was looking for wasn't there. How was our milk gone already? Thinking I could just eat the cereal by itself, I opened the cabinet searching for my Honey Nut Cheerios. Tragically, that was all gone, too." So I've taken that last sentence from the original paragraph and just wrote a couple more sentences about it and used a lot more description and detailed words to, I think, make it more interesting than what it was before. So let's switch to the ending of my story. Right now the ending says, "Finally I made it home with my milk and cereal. I felt like I haven't ate for years, but man, that breakfast was tasty, and that is just one way how my life has changed by that horrible, terrible virus." So I don't think that this ending is that great. It doesn't really stick with the reader. I think that what I want to talk about more in the ending is finally making it home with the milk and cereal, because that's what the whole story is about. And I feel like I owe it to the reader to describe maybe how delicious it is to finally be able to eat that. And maybe I like the ending and how I talk about how my life has changed by the virus because going to the grocery store is more of a challenge. So maybe I will talk about the ending a little bit as well. Just change it. So let's see what that looks like. Okie doke, so this is my revised ending. Now it says, "Finally I arrived home safely with my milk and cereal. All that work made me even hungrier. I poured a heaping bowl of cereal, added some slices of banana on top, and drizzled in my 2% milk. Was it delicious! After I finished my cereal, I thought to myself, when this virus is gone, I will never take going to the grocery store for granted again. So I have expanded on what the experience of finally eating my milk and cereal was like, and I also rephrased that last sentence from the red paragraph. And now I might decide to change this again. I do think that maybe it could get even better. That's the cool thing about revising your writing, is that after you do it the first time, you might think, oh man, that's not perfect, I could do it again. And then before you know it, you have a really well thought out beginning and ending and revised story. Okay, so now we're going to talk about substituting words in your writing. So for an example, I might take the words really annoying and change them or substitute them into the word irritating. First off, you shouldn't have the word really in your writing. You can come up with much better words that don't require you to write the word really. I had a teacher once describe these boring words to me as dead words. And that really stuck with me, because that means that once you change them from dead words to something more interesting, they become alive words. So we want to focus on taking our dead words and turning them into alive words. So let's look at these three words: tasty, but, and really creepy. So we could take the word tasty and turn it into something much more interesting and alive. Maybe I could turn it into the word delicious. I used that in the last example. Or I could use the word scrumptious, mouth-watering. Those are all much more interesting descriptive words than tasty. Or you could start describing the actual taste that you're tasting. If it's something salty or sweet, you could go about it that way. Okay, then I have this word but, and it's capitalized because it was at the beginning of a sentence in my journal, which you should not have the beginning of a sentence starting with but, and, so, or like. So the sentence from my journal says, it was really annoying to go to the grocery store, but I knew I had to go. So instead of saying but, I think I'm going to use the word however. However, I knew I had to go. I could also use the word regardless or nonetheless, but I think I'm going to stick with the word however. And then instead of saying really creepy, when I use that in my journal entry, I'm saying it's really creepy being in the parking lot because there's hardly anybody at the bank. Instead of using that word, I'm going to use the word eerie, because I feel like that word is perfect for what I'm trying to describe. So these green words are much more alive than these red, dead, boring words. So this brings us to today's assignment. So you're going to reread your journal entry, and then you're going to look at the beginning and ending of it. Does the beginning grab the reader's attention? Does the ending stick with the reader? If not, you should change those and make them more interesting like I did. Maybe pick one thing you really like about the beginning and expand on that. Pick one thing you really like at the end and expand on that. And when you're thinking about the ending, think about what you want the reader to walk away with. And then also you're looking for dead words that can be substituted for alive words. So you're rereading, you're looking for the changes you want to make, and then the third step is to make those substitutions using a pink colored pencil or pen. I don't have a pink marker on this app I'm using, so I had to outline it in gray, but I would like for you to use I'd like for you to use a pink colored pencil or pen. And if you need to, because I'm changing the beginning and the ending, I'm probably going to rewrite my story on another page because I just don't have a lot of room on the page that's already written on. While you're making substitutions, especially for when you're making substitutions of those dead words and turning them into alive words, I wanted to bring your attention to a website called www.thesaurus.com. A thesaurus is like a dictionary, but instead of giving you definitions for words, it gives you synonyms for words. So we know that synonyms are words that mean the same. So if you go to your Safari internet browser on your iPad and type in thesaurus.com, it brings up a website that looks like this. And then up in this box, you can type in the word that is a dead word. So I typed in the word happy, and then it gives me synonyms of other words that mean the same thing as happy, but are more alive words. So for example, ecstatic is when you're extremely happy, or chipper. When you wake up in the morning and you're in a really good mood, you might say you're chipper. Or let's see, peppy. Maybe you've got a little pep in your step. These are examples of words that are alive. And so this is a good website to use if you're struggling to find alive words. So after you make those substitutions, you may need to rewrite your story on another page, or you might be able to make them on that same page. And then the last step, which is something different, I want you to take a picture of your revised journal entry and submit it to the Canvas writing assignment that says for the week of 4/20. So if you're rewriting your entry on another page, then you'll need to take a picture of the original journal entry and then the new page that you rewrote it on. Or if you're able to make your substitutions on the same page, then just take a picture of that one page. But you should upload those to Canvas. If you have any questions about this assignment or need additional help, please reach out to your teacher, and I hope that you have a fantastic weekend.